Ever feel like you're drowning in stuff? Like life's become this endless race to acquire more, more, more? More money, more things, more status, even more responsibilities. We're constantly bombarded with the message that success equals accumulation. But what if we've got it all wrong? What if the secret to a truly fulfilling life isn't about having more, but actually about having less? Let's be honest, why are we chasing this constant state of complexity? Why the bigger houses, the fancier cars, the jam-packed schedules? It often boils down to how we've been raised. From a young age, we're taught that life is about constant progress, about climbing this never-ending ladder. But have you ever paused and asked yourself, where exactly does this ladder lead? And is the climb truly worth it? Picture this. You wake up in a home filled with expensive furniture, designer clothes, and the latest tech gadgets. On the surface, it looks like comfort, right? But underneath it all lies a hidden weight: maintenance. The more we own, the more we have to take care of. Every new purchase demands our attention, whether it's cleaning, repairing, upgrading, or eventually replacing it. We don't just buy things, we inherit responsibilities. And slowly, without even realizing it, we can become enslaved by the very possessions we thought would bring us joy. Now let's flip the script. Imagine a different kind of life, one where you only own what you truly need and value. A life where every object in your home serves a purpose, where your schedule isn't crammed with endless obligations, but filled with meaningful moments. In this world, you're not overwhelmed by distractions. Instead, you have the mental clarity to focus on what truly matters. This isn't about deprivation. It's about liberation. When we strip away the unnecessary, we create space for what truly enriches our soul. Think about the last time you sat in complete silence, free from notifications, free from the pressure to be productive. How did that feel? Wasn't there something profoundly peaceful about it? We often assume that complexity equals sophistication, that a life filled with constant activity is a life well lived. But here's a radical thought. What if some of the greatest minds in history thrived not because they filled their lives with noise, but because they embraced simplicity? Think of figures like the Buddha, Socrates, or Thoreau. These were individuals who found wisdom not in excess, but in the art of stripping life down to its essence. But here's the challenge. Do we have the courage to let go? The courage to step off the treadmill of endless consumption and choose a path that, while unconventional, leads to genuine happiness? Simplicity isn't just about material possessions. It's also about mental clarity. When we declutter our surroundings, we declutter our minds. Think about it. How many of your worries are self-imposed? How much stress comes from commitments you felt obligated to take on rather than ones you truly wanted? When we choose to simplify, we reclaim our time, our energy, and our peace of mind. We free ourselves from the exhausting pursuit of more and instead embrace enough. But what does enough truly mean for you? Have you ever actually defined it? Or have you been chasing an endless horizon, never stopping to ask whether the destination is even worth reaching? Here's a thought experiment. If you could only keep 5 material things in your life, what would they be and why? Would your choices surprise you? Would you realize that most of what we accumulate isn't essential to our happiness? The world tells us that success is measured by how much we have. But what if true success is measured by how little we need to be content? What if the richest person isn't the one with the most, but the one who desires the least? Sit with that thought for a moment. What if everything you've been taught about fulfillment has been leading you in the wrong direction? What if freedom isn't found in acquiring, but in letting go? Let's dive deeper into this idea of letting go by exploring the paradox of choice. In a world overflowing with options, we often mistake abundance for freedom. We walk into supermarkets with hundreds of cereal brands, browse through thousands of movies on streaming services, and endlessly scroll through social media, bombarded with infinite choices. The modern world promises us that the more choices we have, the better off we'll be. But have you ever stopped to wonder, does having more options actually make us happier? Or does it quietly imprison us in a cycle of indecision, anxiety, and dissatisfaction? Psychologist Barry Schwartz famously described this as the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the harder it becomes to make a decision. And even when we do choose, we're often haunted by the thought that maybe we could have chosen something better. This applies not just to products, but to life itself. We're constantly told that we can be anything, do anything, achieve anything. But instead of feeling liberated, we often feel overwhelmed. We hesitate, we second-guess, and we struggle to commit because every decision feels like a gamble, every path not taken a source of potential regret. But what if the key to happiness wasn't in expanding our choices, but in willingly limiting them? What if true freedom comes not from having everything, but from deeply valuing the few things that truly matter? Imagine a life where your mind isn't cluttered with unnecessary decisions. A life where you wake up and know exactly what you need to do, where you're not drowning in distractions, but fully present in the moment. Doesn't that sound like a relief? Minimalism isn't just about decluttering your home. It's about decluttering your mind. Every possession, every commitment, every extra responsibility demands a sliver of your attention. And attention, more than anything, is our most valuable resource. The world is constantly fighting for it. Advertisers, social media, the endless stream of notifications buzzing in our pockets. But have you ever asked yourself, who or what is truly worthy of my attention? Am I giving it to things that enrich my life, or am I wasting it on things that add nothing to my well-being? Consider this. When was the last time you sat with your thoughts undisturbed? No phone, no background noise, just you and your own mind. If that idea makes you uncomfortable, ask yourself why. Why do we constantly seek external stimulation? Why do we fear stillness? The truth is, we often use distractions to escape ourselves. We fill our lives with unnecessary complexity because simplicity forces us to confront the uncomfortable truths we've been avoiding. Simplicity is an act of courage. It requires us to strip away the excess and face what remains. Without the noise of constant consumption, we are left with something raw and undeniable, our true selves. And that can be terrifying because it forces us to ask hard questions. Questions like, who am I when I'm not defined by what I own? What do I truly value? What do I want my life to stand for? There is profound power in knowing exactly what matters to you. When we simplify, we reclaim control over our own lives. We stop letting the world dictate our desires, and instead we define them for ourselves. But this is where most people struggle because choosing a simple life often means going against the grain. It means rejecting the idea that more is always better. It means letting go of the illusion that external achievements will bring internal peace. But think about it. How much of what you chase is truly for you? And how much is simply an attempt to meet society's expectations? How many of your goals are rooted in genuine passion? And how many are just unconscious imitations of what you think you should want? The moment you start questioning this, you begin to reclaim your freedom. Many of the world's wisest individuals, from ancient philosophers to modern thinkers, have embraced simplicity as the path to clarity. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled over one of the most powerful civilizations in history, constantly reminded himself that power, fame, and wealth were fleeting illusions. He understood that true contentment comes not from external accumulation, but from internal mastery. The same lesson echoes through the writings of Thoreau, who retreated to the woods not out of deprivation, but out of a desire to live deliberately, to strip life down to its essentials and see what truly remained. So ask yourself, what would happen if you simplified your life? If you stopped chasing goals that don't fulfill you? If you let go of possessions that don't serve you? If you cut out distractions that drain you? What would you be left with? Maybe, for the first time, you'd be left with clarity. Maybe you'd finally have the space to focus on what truly brings you joy. Maybe you'd discover that happiness isn't something you find out there, but something that emerges when you remove everything that isn't it. The world will always try to convince you that you need more. More money, more possessions, more accomplishments. But what if the real secret to fulfillment isn't in adding, but in subtracting? What if the person who has the most isn't the one who has acquired the most, but the one who needs the least? If you could remove everything unnecessary from your life, what would remain? Would it be enough? Or would it, in fact, be more than enough? we rarely stop to consider the silent weight of the things we own. Every object in our possession carries a psychological burden, a quiet demand for our attention. The more we accumulate, the heavier this weight becomes, until one day, without realizing it, we find ourselves trapped beneath the very things we once thought would bring us happiness. Why does this happen? Why do the things we own, instead of setting us free, end up owning us? It starts with a simple illusion: the belief that acquiring more will make us feel more secure. We buy things in anticipation of future needs, thinking that each purchase acts as a safeguard against uncertainty. A bigger house gives us more space for comfort. A fancier car gives us a sense of status, more clothes, more gadgets, more furniture, each one promising to fill some void we may not even fully understand. But what happens once we have it all? Do we ever truly feel satisfied? Or do we just create new desires, new reasons to pursue the next thing? The truth is, possessions don't only take up physical space. They take up mental space. Every object requires maintenance. Every new purchase demands care. And the more we accumulate, the more our lives become entangled in an endless cycle of upkeep. Think about it. How often do you spend time organizing your belongings, cleaning your home, fixing things that break, or simply trying to find space for new acquisitions? Every hour spent managing possessions is an hour taken away from something more meaningful. And yet, we continue to chase more, falsely believing that the next purchase will finally bring us peace. But here's the paradox. The more we try to own, the less free we become. We don't just buy things with money. We buy them with our time, our energy, and our attention. A luxurious house comes with the burden of upkeep. A high-end wardrobe demands constant care and decision-making. Even digital possessions, endless apps, subscriptions, and online content compete for our focus, leaving us feeling mentally cluttered and exhausted. And then, at some point, we look around and realize that instead of serving us, our possessions have become our captors. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a life where you own only what truly adds value to your existence. A life where every object in your home has a purpose, where every item serves you rather than demands something from you. Imagine walking into a space that feels open, unburdened, peaceful. Doesn't that sound like a breath of fresh air? This is the essence of simplicity. Not deprivation, but intentionality. It's about curating your life in a way that removes excess so that what remains is meaningful. But why is it so difficult to let go? Why do we cling to things even when they no longer serve us? Part of the answer lies in attachment. We associate objects with memories, with identities, with emotions. A closet full of unworn clothes isn't just fabric. It's our past selves, our future aspirations, our unfulfilled dreams. A cluttered home isn't just a collection of things. It's a reflection of the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we believe we need to be happy. Letting go, then, isn't just a physical act. It's a psychological one. It requires us to confront the fears that keep us tethered to excess. The fear of scarcity, the fear of regret, the fear that without these things, we might somehow be less. But ask yourself this: when was the last time an object truly brought you lasting happiness? Not momentary excitement, but deep, enduring peace. If possessions could truly fulfill us, wouldn't we all have reached contentment by now? The answer lies not in accumulation, but in detachment. The less we depend on external things for our happiness, the freer we become. This doesn't mean rejecting all material comfort. It means recognizing that the things we own should serve our well-being, not dictate it. It means shifting from a mindset of consumption to one of appreciation. Instead of chasing more, we learn to cherish what we already have. Instead of filling our lives with objects, we fill them with experiences, with relationships, with moments of true presence. Think about the most fulfilling moments of your life. Were they defined by what you owned or by what you felt? Was it the car you drove or the journey you took? Was it the house you lived in or the love that filled it? When we strip away the unnecessary, we begin to see what truly matters. And more often than not, the things that bring us the greatest joy are the ones that cannot be bought. So ask yourself, what are you holding onto that no longer serves you? What possessions, commitments, or distractions are weighing you down? And more importantly, what would your life look like if you had the courage to let them go? Because perhaps the greatest irony of all is that in letting go, we gain more than we ever lost. We gain clarity, we gain freedom, we gain the ability to live not for things, but for meaning. And in the end, isn't that what we were searching for all along? There is a kind of wealth that cannot be measured in bank accounts, square footage, or possessions. It is a wealth that is invisible to the world but deeply felt in the soul. It is the wealth of time, of clarity, of inner peace. And yet, it is the most overlooked wealth of all. We live in a world that glorifies accumulation, that equates success with material abundance, and that tells us that happiness lies somewhere beyond the next purchase, the next promotion, the next milestone. But what if everything we are searching for is already here, hidden beneath the noise of excess? What if the ultimate luxury in life is not having more, but needing less? When we simplify, we reclaim something priceless: our time. Time is the one resource we can never replenish, yet we trade it away so easily, sacrificing hours, days, even years in the pursuit of things we are told we need. We work jobs we don't love to buy things we don't need, hoping to impress people who aren't paying attention. And in doing so, we miss the very life we are trying so hard to enhance. But imagine for a moment what your life would look like if time belonged to you again. If your days were not dictated by obligations to things you've accumulated, but instead filled with the freedom to pursue what truly matters. What would you do? Who would you become? Simplicity gives us space not just in our homes, but in our minds. When we remove the unnecessary, we create room for presence, for creativity, for genuine connection. We begin to see beauty in the small things: the way sunlight filters through a window, the sound of laughter in a quiet room, the feeling of deep conversation unburdened by distraction. These are the moments that make life rich, yet they often go unnoticed in the rush of chasing more. Have you ever felt the weight of unnecessary obligations lift from your shoulders? Have you ever experienced the deep exhale that comes with realizing you don't have to keep up, that you don't have to prove anything to anyone? That is the wealth of simplicity. That is the luxury of enough. But perhaps the greatest gift of simplicity is that it forces us to redefine success. In a world that measures worth in possessions, choosing to live with less is a radical act. It is a statement that says, I am enough as I am. I do not need external validation to feel complete. This is a kind of freedom that few ever attain because it requires us to step outside of the narrative we've been given. It asks us to stop looking outward for fulfillment and start looking inward. And when we do, we realize that happiness was never hiding in things. It was always within us, waiting to be uncovered. So the question is, are you willing to let go? Are you willing to strip away the excess and see what remains? Are you willing to trade the illusion of security for the reality of freedom? If you are, you might just discover that the life you've been chasing is the one that exists when you stop chasing altogether. Because in the end, the richest life is not the one filled with the most, but the one that is lived with the deepest sense of meaning. And meaning is never found in what we own. It is found in who we are. The choice is yours. Will you continue to seek fulfillment in things outside yourself? Or will you dare to embrace the priceless benefits of living simply? The benefits that nobody tells you about, but that change everything once you experience them. What are your thoughts on living simply? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this video insightful, be sure to like and subscribe for more content on personal growth and finding contentment in a complex world. Thanks for watching.